Welcome to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I am Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey Early White on a rainy spring day.
Yep, super rainy today, the day that we're filming this, and it is kind of gloomy.
But I'm feeling bright and cheery today.
Yeah, we kind of both got on cheerful colors.
We did. We got on some cheerful colors.
In spirit, we're happy, even if it's raining. And you know what makes me so happy is my flowers this year are just gorgeous.
I can't even talk about mine. Mine are amazing.
Mine are more amazing than yours.
No, she didn't.
No, I've seen Stacey's, and hers are amazing. Both of us have really good flowers
I have
this
to
year.
drive by. So did you get everything done? You get it all done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a week ago you were like, I haven't done it yet. Now
I know, and I got it. I got it done, and it looks fantastic, and I'm happy with it. And yeah.
What'd you get for Mother's Day?
I got the best lawn chair ever. I asked for it. So a few days before.
They're hard to find. Good ones hard to find.
I know. And I like to use these really old ones from like the 70s or 80s that fold up that my husband's Uncle Warren Cooper had like woven with that real soft stuff through it. Yeah. It was like a thing a long time ago.
Oh, and then they would like click.
Yeah.
And then click, and you could you can do that?
No, I don't think you do that.
Okay, that goes a little bit far.
But it's just like really, well, anyway, the point is those were getting really worn out, but they were lightweight and they're comfortable.
Yeah.
Because when I carry them to a Little League game, I don't want to pack in some big old honking heavy chair,
That's where you're headed, Little League now, right?
Yeah, so we're right in the middle of Little League season. We're like 2 or 3 weeks into Little League season right now. So while I was at a game last week, there was a nice lady sitting next to me that had a rocking lawn chair. And I've seen a few other people that have had those, but I'm like, man, that is a nice chair. Like, Jason and Carissa were sitting there, and I said, that would make a really nice Mother's Day present.
Yeah. And
so, lo and behold, they listened to me, and that's exactly what I got for Mother's Day.
They are. I have rocking chairs, camping chairs, and rockers. I love them.
And this one,
I'm always moving. I like to. Yeah, they're nice.
And this one folds up really nicely, and then it has a handle, and you don't have to like shove it in that bag. How some of those chairs have those bags, and you stand there for 10 minutes and like
because one leg is like out.
Yes, I
hate those things.
I know. That's why I just used the old fold-up one from who knows how old it was. He redid it at some point. It could have been from the 70s.
Shoot, we'll probably be doing a show on those old chairs one day.
Probably. Vintage lawn chairs is what I have been using up until now, but I'm happy with my chair.
And I don't know about you, but I have gone through, I don't even know how many, just to find the right chair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's like you get them and you're like, nope. And they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Holy cow, chairs are, I would love to have like those, like they sell them out the farmer's market, and they're all the different colors, and they laid way back. Adirondack chairs. And they never fade, because apparently the color's all the way through the entire plastic.
Yeah, you have some of those around your pool, right?
Yeah, but they're cheap. Yeah. The ones I have are super cheap.
You're talking about the nice heavy wooden ones.
Yeah, or they're super plastic.
Yeah.
They're all that heavy plastic. But
yeah, those are super expensive.
They're expensive.
I have a friend that has an entire set of those on her sun porch. And then she has a matching table and chairs, too, that's made out of that. And hers is almost like a wood, but it's kind of like that decking material that just won't go away.
Yeah,
I think that's
it. That might be it,
yeah. They are the most fantastic chairs. And she's had them ever since I've known her, at least. And I've known her for 20 years.
Right.
They don't go bad. You cannot tell that they are 20 years old.
Now, I have never seen a table and chairs out of that stuff.
Well, apparently 20
Wonder
years.
where she got that.
Actually, I think she told me one time that when she bought the house, that the lady before her had them on the sun porch. So who knows how old they are, but they are fantastic. And that some of them are the Adirondack style, and then the others are like table and chairs for the patio.
Huh. I need those in my life. Yeah. Yeah, I almost pulled the lever this year.
Did you?
But I didn't, because we're going on that trip.
You have really nice lawn furniture, though. I don't know where you'd put it.
Well, I would just and honestly, when I'm my pool gets hot. My pool gets sun from the time it comes up till it goes down. You can't even walk on my deck. It gets that hot. Yeah. So it's that decking board that doesn't go away. And I'm thinking, Jim's like, why do you want to spend that much money on that when you're not going to sit up there because you're going to be melting? When I come out, I'm in the pool floating.
Why are our men so common sense?
I don't know.
I have this great dream, and I'm going to get this real pretty. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And you're like,
and he's right, because I'm never going to sit in it.
Yeah.
Because I have like, we have a gazebo. No, what is it? I have a back porch that's covered, and then I have what's that thing off to the side called?
It's called a
pergola.
Pergola.
Yeah,
yes.
so I could seat 20 people in my back. But,
easy.
Yeah, but I don't need them. It's just super cool. And so.
So what did you get for Mother's Day?
Oh my gosh.
What?
Okay, well, I got Jack picked out the most beautiful hanging basket. Ginormous.
Yes.
I got two, because they know how much I love flowers. Two ginormous hanging baskets, and they're the kind that's got that mossy stuff under there, so it holds the water, which I probably won't kill those. And they're quite pricey. That's probably why I've never bought
those self-watering ones.
Yeah, it's like it's got some sort of weird, where you can dump a ton of water in there and it barely drips.
Know. Yeah,
and I got two of those. One I can't even tell you there. If you put them on here, the one on my back porch, wait till you see it. I can't wait till you see it. It would cover this entire hole. It's huge.
Yeah, my mom got one of. I didn't get my mom that. My brother got my mom one of those.
Oh my gosh,
for Mother's
I love
Day,
it.
It's just gorgeous.
Yes, I absolutely love it because I am a flower person, and so I got two of those. So one of them, and so big and so heavy that Jim and Jack built me a stand yesterday. Jim pulled out that that
lumber he hoards.
That lumber he hoards and built me and it's not real tall. It's just right, it's
reason
perfect.
Number 500 why you cannot give him a hard time about his lumber hoarding. He builds you stuff all the time.
Oh yeah, and he did it in a half hour.
Oh yeah, 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, he did it in a half hour.
Yeah.
He's like, oh Jack, literally JoJo and I went to go get lunch, and when I came back, it was. Pretty much. He's like, oh, Jack, we may have had to run some errands with Sarah, my exchange student. But, yeah, we weren't gone very long. Actually, Joanna didn't go. She stayed and helped build.
Oh, I bet she was a lot of help.
She's big, big, big help.
Yeah.
And then I got, so my friend Kim Smith, they're camping buddies of ours. And Kim came up to the shop with one of them electric scooters.
Oh, yeah?
I'm like, oh, my gosh, that's the cutest thing ever. And she's like, well, if you order in places, it's like $200 or something like that. But if you go over there, that Only Pacific Cycle, they're like $80.
I did see some. I bought Silas a new bike recently over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kim, she's like, it's great. It's going to be great for the campground.
Yeah. So you went and got one, didn't you?
Connor got me one for Mother's Day. So, and they're worried because, I was like, I sent a picture to the boys and Jim, and I'm like, oh, look at this. This is what Kim's got. And if Kim can do it, I can do it, And Connor's like, well, I see a broken leg. And Mac's like, I see a loss of toes. And I'm like, come on, guys. It won't be that bad. So Connor got it, and Jim, it was that, and he turned it on. You can go low, medium, or high.
Yeah.
Low, it only goes up to like 7. Well, that's, driving Miss Stacey here. Of course, Jim and the boys get on it high, crank it up. That thing goes 16 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
I'm like, well, I won't be doing that, of course.
You're going to be riding that thing to work in the summer.
Exactly.
Saving gas money.
Heck yeah. But I was like, it's the cutest thing. But the only thing, they only come in white. I'm a color girl.
Oh.
But, yeah.
You should put decals on it. Have you thought about that? Have somebody that does
not. Well, I will now.
You can tattoo anything. So just have somebody that has a Cricut that's good at vinyl and put some vinyl vines or flowers. Put flowers on it.
I will have flowers put all over it.
Shout out to somebody we know with a Cricut vinyl cutter.
I don't even know what a Cricut is.
Okay, well, I'll explain it later. It's it's like a crafting computer-ish machine that cuts.
Oh, I bet somebody out there does.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Well.
Okay, so let's kick off this show.
Okay.
What do you got?
Well, so I'm going through this magazine, which I'm never going to get rid of, which, I was complaining on another episode. I lost another top cover.
We're going to have to
we got to figure out something here.
We've got to get some tape.
Yeah.
Binding tape or
something. We got
something.
to get something here. Okay, so I picked out this ad.
Okay.
And I picked it out because I wondered, look at this Jolly Time popcorn ad. It's Bob Hope.
I see that. I can tell by his eyeballs.
Yeah, look at that. Crisp, fluffy, delicious, I'll say. Bob Hope and his children have fun popping Jolly Time. First of all, I think it's weird that the Jolly Time guaranteed to popcorn comes in a can. That's kind of weird. See Bob Hope in My Favorite Spy. So even, I wondered, I was going to Google this to see when they started doing this. I wonder when advertisers started, because I do a lot of old ads, and you come across models or you come across ordinary people. When did they start thinking,
promoting themselves?
Hey, let's do an actor in here and have an actor. Bob Hope's the first one I've come across that's been, and this is 1952. Mm-hmm. This is the first ad I've come across in any of my magazines where a movie star or a famous person is actually advertising the product. Hey Ty, Google when did actors start advertising prices? But it says, like Bob Hope, Linda, and Tony Hope, you'll be delighted with Jolly Time. It's amazingly quick popping, and every bite is so crisp, fluffy, and delicious.
I wonder if Linda and Tony, is that who you said their names are? I wonder if they're still alive. Bob Hope's children.
Well, how old would Bob Hope be?
Oh, gosh. He
well, this is 52, and this kid looks like he's about 9 or 10.
Yeah, so he's probably still alive.
They probably are. Linda she's probably 14, maybe. Mm-hmm. They're young.
Yeah. Well, we can look that up next.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you go through all these things, and it's like, wow, there's Bob Hope.
I wonder if in the beginning the actors were like, I'm an actor, not a model. You need to ask a model to be in your ad.
Because
they hadn't figured out that they could make a crap load of money off of doing it.
That's where all your athletes and all them people make hundreds of millions of dollars, which is insane.
Insane, unless they offered it to me, and then I'd be like, okay.
Right. Well, I just think it just goes to show you that I don't know. I'm having a real hard time with all this inflation stuff when they can pay some stupid basketball player $100 million.
Oh, yeah.
To advertise. It's insane. As consumers, we need to stop buying some of that stuff, just saying. The only way we're going to get inflation down is to quit buying products that we those products that we think, as Americans, we think we have to have. Mm-hmm. We don't really have to have them until American people have the power to cut the prices. Just quit buying the stuff you think you have to have. Mm-hmm. All the frivolous stuff.
Good advice.
Seriously. Cut it. Inflation will go down. And that is the powerful words of Stacey early one.
Okay.
But it is true.
Well, I do believe you. I do think that it is really hard to do that.
As long as we continue buying it, as long as we continue buying what we think we need, it's never going down.
Right. I think, though, that some people have already stopped buying certain things and services.
Absolutely.
Because it's just like you just can't afford it anymore. Like, I'm just going to pick on an industry right now. I'm going to say, like, skincare industry.
Absolutely.
I think like 10 years ago, like you could buy the expensive skincare stuff. If you spent $80 on a moisturizer or whatever, it's supposed to be really good. Fine, I'll get it. You might even go get expensive facials, things like that. But now that would be like really low on the priority list.
Absolutely.
It's like money's really tight. I have to buy $500 worth of groceries this week. Like I don't have an extra $80 for moisturizer. So instead I'm going to Walmart and I'm going to buy, some Vaseline for $1.97 or something.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Because I had a friend of mine call me and said, are you still using that expensive brand we were using? I'm like, no, I dropped it about a year and a half ago. It's too expensive. I'm not paying that. I'm not paying that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm in the beauty industry. Right. I know what that stuff costs.
Right. Well, the same way with the makeup that I use. It was a wonderul blush, and I loved it.
Me
I'm
too.
not going to say the company's name.
Me neither.
But it was expensive. It was like $40 or $50 for a thing of blush, but it lasted a really long time, and I loved it. And about a year ago or whatever, I was like, that's insane. Like, money's tight. I'm saving for a wedding. I don't need $50 blush. So I bought some Almay blush at Walmart that was $9.
Yep.
And I love it.
Oh, me too. I got this new eye palette. I got like 2 or 3. I went Dollar General, got them for $4.99.
Yeah.
No, I'm done. It's like people are going to start realizing that you can't. We're done doing that.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is a lot of that stuff is. Some things are, but paying $50, I mean, it's silly.
Yeah.
Even on a good day, it's silly.
I know. But what'd you find out, Ty?
That's my Susan.
Around 50s and 60s, that's when they started.
Around the 50s and 60s is when
52.
actors started being in advertisements.
Yeah,
so
this
there
one's
you go.
in 1952.
Bob Hope led the way, and then everyone else was like, oh, Bob's doing it. I'll do it.
Well, and speaking of advertisers, before we start our show, we need to go to some. We'll be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. We have an interesting show planned today. We are going back into the history of Louisville.
Yep.
And I found a very interesting letter written by a woman named Estella. She was Estella Beard. Her maiden name was Ramsey. Estella Ramsey Beard. They called her Stella. And her husband's name was Rufus. And sometimes she refers to herself as Mrs. Rufus.
Mrs. Rufus.
Yeah, but she had this letter. I don't know if you can zoom in on that.
Yeah, I want to see
that. She was born in the late 1800s and she died in the 1940s.
Is this her handwritten letter?
This is her handwritten 7-page letter.
Holy Moses!
That is, of course, I can read cursive usually pretty well, but I struggled with some of her cursive, and you can see like she has parts that are kind of crossed out and then written over. Different things like that. So it was very hard to read. So I actually transcribed it and typed it. I read it slowly and typed it because that way I could read it better on air because it is kind of a dandy.
I've come across several handwritten, and I've struggled terribly with it.
I think that cursive writing sort of over the decades kind of changed, evolved a little bit.
Because I feel like it was pretty much just like, where I'm, I feel like it was.
But like the people that learned it in the 1800s, theirs was a lot more scripty and little. And like their N's and their R's looked the same.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
And there were words that she just assumed we knew what she meant. And I had to read 2 or 3 sentences to get the context to figure out what that word was.
Right.
Because she was hard to read. Okay. So
you fixed it.
She doesn't date this letter, but I believe it was written in the 1940s, which I think she died in 1942. I'll double check that in a minute. But so she is writing this letter to some club in Louisville that she is a part of. It doesn't say what. I'm wondering, it's like a women's club or a Rotary club or something, and they asked her to attend to speak about the history of Louisville because apparently she knows a lot about it. But she couldn't because, she explains in the letter, but instead she wrote them this 7-page letter about the history of Louisville, a very condensed version. And some of this stuff we've talked about a little bit on the show, and some of it we haven't, but I just thought it was interesting how she wrote it and like her wording, and then she says a few things about people that are more like a little gossipy than fact. And anyway, I'll just jump into it because I don't even, it might take me a while. All right. So this is the foreword. She wrote, "Howdy, club sisters. I cannot tell you how sorry I am that I cannot be with you today, but a previous engagement makes it impossible. Had my engagement been with some old friend, I might have begged off, but she is a newcomer and might not understand." So then she jumps into the first paragraph, History of Louisville. Louisville was first settled by some say William Lewis and some say George Goebel in about 1820. So stopping there, we've always said it was George Goebel. But we know that there's a story about Lewis because that's why it's named Louisville.
Yeah.
Lewis lived down in the southeast part of what is now Louisville, about where Mrs. Ella Kinley lives now, which Ella Kinley, I'm sure, is long gone as well. Goebel ran a water mill near, and the remains of the dam was visible from the high banks, or was the last time I went there. Now, the high banks is in quotation marks. So the high banks was the end of the Louisville and Atlantic City boardwalk. And here she kind of lost me a little bit. Yeah, and I was like, Atlantic City boardwalk in Louisville? But apparently they had a boardwalk downtown, and they referred to it like it was the Atlantic City boardwalk. But I think it was just a board sidewalk. This is in the 1890s that she's talking about. back in the gay 90s where the Beau Brummels and their fair ladies paraded on Sunday afternoons. So just picture that. People with their little umbrellas and their white dresses. And there was a wooden sidewalk through Louisville that was called the Atlantic City Boardwalk.
I wonder where that went through at.
I don't know. And
that'd be nice if that was
still there.
Still there.
The walk, well, here, she kind of tells where it was. The walk began at the southeast corner of the square.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. Then she kind of gets off topic. She does this. She starts talking about something and then she switches. Does that sound familiar?
That does sound familiar. Is she my spirit animal?
Allow me to digress a little. It was on one of these parades that the writer, she refers to herself as the writer, that the writer had a very humiliating experience. Rufus and I, not yet married, were parading over the said boardwalk when my hose supporter gave way, and after vain attempts to keep my stocking from coming down, I mustered all of my courage and told Rufus what had happened, and went into the house now occupied by Fred McCollum Sr. to fix it. Imagine a 1941 girl under similar circumstances. But going back, see, that's why I think she wrote this in 1941, because I think she's saying, imagine a girl of today going through
that.
But going back, the town of Louisville was named after William Lewis. Mr. Blackburn of Vandalia, who platted the town, made a mistake in the spelling and spelled it Louis, which has always stuck. The mill was known for 20 years as Goebel Mill. He died and was buried in the old Louisville graveyard. Not the one we have now, known as the old one, but one that was on the ground of the late Charlie Burroughs. So, was this the lost cemetery that we talked about in another episode? Somewhere between his house and the Harvey McCollum house, he sold his mill to Crawford Lewis, who in turn sold it to Dr. Green. There were several of the Goebels. John was a brother of George and John's children, George, Ben, and Polly. Ben married a Sorrells and was the father of Gus, who was the grandfather of Agnes Scott Etchison. The Sorrells are of importance because of their connection with the flatboat business down to New Orleans. So I think this family, Louisville family, the Sorrells, used the Little Wabash River in Louisville for a flatboat business and went all the way down to New Orleans in it, back and forth.
Wow, that'd be cool.
The Sullivans are other old settlers coming to this county in 1828 and to Louisville in 1838. John H. Sullivan married Margaret Green, a sister of Dr. Green. So she's already mentioned Dr. Green twice. She is going to talk a lot about him. And I was kind of like, why is she so fascinated with this Dr. Green?
Right.
Because you're going to hear a lot about him. But whenever I looked up her family, her mother was a Green.
Okay.
Her mother was a Green. So I bet this Dr. Related. Green was her great-grandpa or something.
Yeah.
The Moores were early settlers. S.B. Moore Sr. entered the government land in 1838. I wasn't real sure what that meant. He took some ground. And biblical, then here she goes into biblical language. In biblical language, he begot Perry, Daniel, Sylvester, John, Samuel, Vathia, Hortenstein, and Martha Lampkin. If I get it right, Daniel was the father of our present merchant, John Moore, and the grandfather of Scott Moore. All of these people are gone. So, in 1882, the Brisidens built a new roller process flouring mill, one of the first in southern Illinois at the time. So, Louisville was the home of the first roller process flouring mill. Flour as in the kind you bake with.
Baking flour.
Baking flour.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Dr. Green, one of the who's who of Louisville, was a physician of ability. There is much could be said about him, but I am just going to relate a story I have heard my father tell. It seems he was in the habit of going back after his patients got well and collecting what medicine they had not used. These he put into a jug, mixed them all together, and it was called Jug of Returns. Can you imagine? Okay, who knows what he was giving these people? I mean, it could have been cocaine.
Nice.
It could have been opiates. You know, all of this stuff that he gives out for different ailments. After you were getting better, he would go pick up the medicine. What did you not use? I'm going to take it with me. And then he put it all into the same jug. I think this would be about enough to kill you. Then he would mix it all together, and it was called the Jug of Returns.
Jug of Returns.
Then, this is where it gets good. When he got a case that baffled him and was not doing to suit him, he gave them the contents of the jug of returns. Of course, this was first a story of the day, may or may not have had some foundation.
Well, what are you going to do with that jug of returns?
He gave it to the people if he didn't know what they had.
Just take it all.
He probably poured it into a smaller bottle, but
funny.
He'd be like, oh, I don't really know what's wrong with you, but take this because it's probably got something in it that'll help you.
If only doctors were still like that.
If it doesn't kill you first. Oh, my gosh. Another doctor of early Louisville was Dr. Hallam. He seemed to be the butt of good-natured jokes. Some wit suit him a Valentine with this verse. So somebody at Valentine's Day wrote him a poem. Bobtail pony and a long ways to go. Never mind the weather, doctor, when the wind don't blow. And she thought this was really funny. I didn't quite get it, but I guess he really did write a bobtail pony is what he was known for writing. So somebody was being witty, and for Valentine's Day wrote, Bobtail pony and a long ways to go. Never mind the weather, doctor, when the wind don't blow.
There you go.
Okay, whatever. At this period, there was a lawyer named Stoker. He is spoken of as being from Centralia, but he must have been here at least a great part of the time, for he had an overcoat with immense big buttons on it, and Hallam had a very long overcoat. So the poet again got busy and wrote a poem about Hallam's coat and his buttons. I have forgotten it all but the title. Okay, so somebody in Louisville was like to tease the doctor and lawyer. Following Green came one N.A. and H. McNown, Dr. Jim Boyles, who for years was a last prominent in civil affairs, Dr. H.B. Loeffner, who was for years a valued citizen, later Dr. Duncan, father of Mrs. Anna McKnight and Mrs. Edith Phillips, moved here from Bible Grove. A Dr. Beard was here for a few years, followed by Dr. Burgett, Dr. George Steely, and our present doctors B.F. Steely, J.V. Dillman, and Dr. Adams. The first store was ran by George Green. At one time, Dr. Green and N.M. Liner had an astonishing large store for the day. Other early merchants were Jacob May, Bryce Brothers, and there were some other specials. The harness shop, the blacksmith shop, the carpenter shop, and cabinet maker.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
We're going to take another commercial break.
All right.
We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank.
We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online bank, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be.
Clay County State Bank.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today we're talking about this letter from Estella. I always forget her last name. Beard. Because I want to say Rufus.
She goes by Rufus.
She does go by Mrs. Rufus sometimes, but Rufus was her husband. So.
I wish I knew her. I think I'd like her.
I know. I think I would too.
Yeah,
I wish she could guest host with us one day.
Kidding.
We'd just sit right here and have a little chat with her.
Mrs. Rufus.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So the county seat, through the efforts of Dr. Green, who was elected to the legislature, some fellow, that Dr. Green, she even writes that and puts an she has very few exclamation points, because today exclamation points are a little overused. Back then they were not, so she rarely used one. Some fellow, that Dr. Green, exclamation point, Okay, so what she's talking about, the county seat, was moved from Maysville to Louisville in May of 1841. We've talked about that a little bit.
Yep, we've covered that one.
I did not find out who the first sheriff of the county was, but the second was James Nash, while the county seat was still at Maysville. The first session of court held in Louisville commenced on the hot day of August 1841. The description of the first jail is very interesting, but I must not take the time to describe it. The first brick building erected was the old courthouse, built by a contractor who had quite a checkered history.
Well, now.
I was intrigued. I was like, what did he do?
What did he do?
She doesn't say. The second was built by Joseph Holt and still stands and is occupied by Porter P. Bible. This was one time an inn or a tavern. So that part kind of confused me. The courthouse at one point was an inn or a tavern.
And then they moved in because they didn't build that building from what I think back. I mean, that building was already standing.
So they moved it in.
So they moved it in.
It was an old inn.
Yeah, because there were two different. There was the original one and then the one that they built that's in there now.
Okay.
So, yeah, probably it could have been. It was a cool building. Do you remember the pictures of it?
Yeah, I do.
Kind of looked like a church. I mean,
yeah.
It was really cool. It had the steeple. It was a really cool building.
At this time, one of the most talked of hotels in the country was called the Galt House. I think it was in New York City. They nicknamed this tavern the Galt House. Tradition has it that there was a murder committed there. A man was supposed to have a lot of money on him, and he put up for the night and was never seen or heard from again.
So I got to write this down. How do you say this? What is this? And this hotel was in Louisville?
Yeah.
The what? How do you say?
The Galt, G-A-U-L-T house, which when you Google that, you're probably going to find the one that's in New York City. But they were nicknaming it after that one. But it was this tavern.
Somebody's got to know about it.
So a man that was supposed to have a lot of money on him stayed there and was never heard or seen from again. And it was believed that he was killed for his cash. Bum, bum, bum. In mentioning the early doctors, I forgot Dr. Heinings. He owned the place where the writer now lives and bought it off his heirs, Mrs. Apperson and Mrs. Isa Jameson. He had a vineyard on the hill north of our home, a wine cellar, and a wine cistern. Ooh. The cistern is still in existence, but has been the burial place of all of the dead cats, chickens, hogs, sheep, and whatnot since we owned the place. So I would love to know where she lived. Pet cemetery now, but apparently it originally was intended to be a wine cistern.
Okay, there you go.
Which kind of grosses me out a little bit. Like, did it have a lining? Like it was just a concrete area and you just poured wine into it to age, or what? How does a wine cistern work?
Well, today it's very technical, but back then you just stomped on grapes and let it sit there. I guess. I don't know.
In the 80s, there was a 6 weeks.
Oh, here we go. The 80s.
The 80s. And she's talking about the 1880s, not the 1980s.
Bummer.
In the 80s, there was a 6 weeks Teachers Institute held each year in the county. When I was 12 years old, I attended one of these here in Louisville. I was sort of chaperoned by a couple of cousins, Ella and Ira Hockman. My mother very uncompromisingly told me if she heard of me, and this is in quote, going with any of the boys, she would whip me when I got home. No. I so thoroughly believed it that I scarcely looked at one of the male sex. I mentioned, so her mom scared the wits out of her. Don't be going out with any of those boys. She's 12 years old.
Oh, that's funny.
And she's going to this Teachers Institute at 12 to learn how to be a teacher.
Right.
This is the kind of thing they talk about in Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Yeah.
Laura Ingalls did this, and I'm talking about the books, of course, not the movie. She did that when she was 16. She got her teacher's thing. So, okay, I mentioned the Institute because it was then I first knew our pioneer mother, Mrs. Mamie Burton Golden. She was boarding at the Hopkins Hotel, which stood on the lot where the jail now stands, or the one next to it. One evening after supper, the two cousins and I called on Miss Burton. Quite an event for me to call on someone living in a hotel.
Well,
fancy schmancy. Lou McKnight, later Anna Duncan's husband, was the superintendent of schools. William Duncan, brother of Mrs. McKnight, was one of the instructors. Believe it or not, I took the examination for a teacher's certificate and made grades in everything but geography. I could have taken that over, but at the time, a girl had to be 16 years of age to be eligible for a certificate. So this is what I know from Law Ingalls. So you
Here we
you
go.
take the test, and then depending on your grade, you either get first grade or second grade, like depending on how well you did.
Okay, if you weren't the smartest person, you taught first grade?
Well,
is that what you're saying to me?
I think so.
I would have been in pre-K.
But I don't know that it was actually like first grade, as in that's the only you could teach. But I think like
I always wondered about that. They're all in the same room.
I think maybe first grade you focused on the younger kids. Second grade, I don't know.
They're all in the same room. I don't understand.
Maybe you could teach all ages, but it was how much they paid you, depending on what your score was. But she did not get a grade in geography, so that means she couldn't have gotten her teacher's certificate because she didn't pass geography. But it didn't matter anyway because she wasn't 16. Right. Why was she even messing around? Just trying to prove to herself she could do it.
Figuring that one out.
Maybe so when she went back to school in the fall, she'd be like, I could be teaching this class. Maybe. I don't know. I must not fail to mention Mr. William H. Huddleston, who was one of the successful businessmen of Louisville. He was the wealthiest man of our town and one of the few rich men in the county. His estate was dispensed of here and there, and he lies over in what we now call the Old Cemetery, with a monument that cost $50.
Goodness sakes, that's terrible.
And the last time I noticed it, it was either broken or fallen off. Louisville has the distinction of having one citizen become the governor of the state of Illinois, John R. Tanner, which we talked about him too. We have an episode about him. He and his brother, James Mack, but I don't know why one had a different last name, figure largely into the middle history of Louisville. John had somewhat tempestuous career early in life, but he later turned his attention to politics and was once elected state treasurer and later governor. Okay. I dare not quit without mentioning the most unique character Louisville ever had.
Ooh, who's this?
Galen Bible. He, with the long hair that he most of the time wore coiled up and fastened with hairpins.
You do realize I'm taking notes on some of this stuff, right?
Yeah. He let it down to float in the breeze when there were gala days in town, like 4th of July picnics, soldiers' reunions, political rallies, etc. So he let his hair down for those.
There you go.
Is that where the old saying comes from? Let your hair down?
Let your hair down?
Comes from Galen Bible, circa 1880, Louisville, Illinois.
Maybe.
Okay.
Could happen.
He had the first automobile ever in town.
Okay. That makes sense.
A one-cylinder brush. If I read her writing right, brush. It didn't make sense to me. BRUSH. And he was so large. He weighed...
Oh, good. Dear God.
Here we go.
150 pounds?
No. He weighed 300 pounds or more. He completely filled it and could lift it if he so desired. So his car was small and he was big. And it didn't go very fast either because it was only one cylinder. He would get in it and it would a bug-a-chug, a bug-a-chug, a bug-a-chug around. This is how she writes it.
Watching the Shriners and their little widgets.
Truly a picture for any comic strip. Never was anyone before like him, and never will be another. So yeah, I kind of wish I had a picture of Galen Bible. There are so many things I would like to mention. The old courthouse, the old jail, the new ones, the county offices, the churches, the societies and clubs, lawyers, modern merchants. Wow. I could write reams, but this thing must come to an end.
Oh, no.
So must this. Goodbye, my dear friends, for now. Estella Ramsey Beard. And then in parentheses, she writes, Mrs. Rufus. But wait, there's more.
I was going to say, the show can't be done.
No, because she keeps going.
Okay.
She thought she was done.
She's not done.
She's not done. She
took a nap, and while she was taking a nap, boom, thought of other things.
You think? I bet you're right. I bet she was like, yeah, I'm going to sign. And then she's like,
I'm so tired. I'm done.
I should have said this, and I should have said that.
Yeah. I love it.
It would not be doing justice to my deceased friend and his wife, who is again living in Louisville. So this whole line didn't make any sense to me. Because I was like, so are they dead or are they alive or are they ghosts? It would not be doing justice to my deceased friend and his wife, who is again living in Louisville. So maybe the deceased friend was a male and he's dead, but his wife is alive and she's living in Louisville. Maybe she also did not use a lot of punctuation. So I'm telling you, this was a puzzle.
Everything just ran together.
And sometimes when she did use punctuation, it was not correct.
Well, of course not, English police.
I wanted to pull out my red ink pen, but I did not. Okay, so she has friends living in Louisville. I think that one of them might be alive. Judge T.S. Williams, to not mention him. See, now she's writing in a hurry because some of her sentences didn't even make sense. Our congressman from the 24th District for 18 years or more, which position he gave up when appointed as one of the judges of the court of, then there was a word I couldn't read. It looked like Claius. Court of Claius, C-L-A-I-U-S. I don't know what that is. I first knew him when we attended a normal school here. Normal was capitalized. So then I was thinking, like Normal the city, but she never left Louisville. So I don't know what she meant by that. A normal school here. And I think about 1889. Tom was always a fluent talker and a user of big words. So much so that I was somewhat in awe of him. I think she had a crush on him.
She might have.
We were always the best of friends, and he and Mrs. Williams lived with Mr. Beard and I when we were the landlord and landlady of the Metropolitan Hotel, now the department store Kincaid's.
There you go.
Miss Estella Beard here that wrote this letter was once the landlady of the Metropolitan Hotel, which we talked about on a previous episode as well.
Huh.
She did that for about a year. Now that I have got going again, I just must say I wish I had time to tell about the editors of the papers here. Mr. Henry O.C. Gaston. I'm going
to stop you now, and we're going to take another commercial break.
Okay.
And we'll finish this story. This is kind of interesting.
Okay, we'll be back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Pegel's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Pegel Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting to work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
Give me all your lumber. Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I'm Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey Earlywine, and we are finishing Mrs. Rufus's 7-page letter to
this club.
To the club.
Yeah. Stella Beard.
She's breaking it all down.
Yeah, so she's wanting to finish the letter by telling about the editors of the papers in Louisville. And they were Mr. Henry, Mr. Gaston, E.B. Gorell, and the above Judge William Ira Apperson. The Appersons were prominent in affairs from way back. Now, I don't remember coming across Appersons.
I don't either, but I'll write that down.
A-P-P-E-R-S-O-N.
Exactly like it sounds. Mm-hmm. Apperson. I have never come across that.
The McCollums. That was a big name. The Ferrises. The Finches. The Brizidens. The Phillips. The Vickeries. The Sullivans. Then this was an interesting name, and she didn't write a family name. She said Dolfo Steinbruck. The Smiths, and goodness knows how many more. Don't you see that I really could write reams? Oh, yes. Lawyer H.H. Chesley, B.D. Monroe, and Judge Hagel. Later, Judge J.W. Thomason, Judge Tolliver. Oh, my, there is no stopping, please. She just couldn't, finally just ended it.
She's just like, I'm out. Yeah. I'm done.
So, Stella, I tried to find a picture of this lady because I thought that would be.
Could you find one?
No.
Where's she? Okay.
She's buried here in Louisville at the Orchard Hill Cemetery. And she was born in 1873, and she died in 1942 at the age of 68. So this letter, I believe, was written in 1941.
Yeah.
So I think that she passed away shortly after this letter was written. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't give a lot of information about her, really.
No picture of her?
And she did not have any children. Her and Rufus had no children listed. They just have their parents and siblings listed as survivors. But Rufus, he lived to be, he died in 1943. So she was already gone. He was born in 1869, and he died in 1943. And I don't have a screenshot of. He was 74. But he had traveled down to St. Petersburg, Florida, which I thought was interesting because she wasn't with him and he didn't have any children. But I guess he decided to take it. Maybe he went alone. Maybe he went with friends. But he went down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and it lists him as a retired livestock dealer. So that's what they did, was livestock. And he died in Florida at a local hotel following a heart attack.
Why?
He had just gotten in Florida 3 days ago. And so his survivors are only listed as some brothers. But how sad,
That's very sad.
Go on a little vacation to Florida and die of a heart
attack. Not come back.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is. So, anyway, in the letter, she talked about the old Louisville Cemetery, and I think what she's referring to is the Lost Cemetery.
You think not the one that's on coming into town? You think it's the Lost one?
I think so because of who she mentions that she was talking about the Goebbels and stuff. I think it could be that one, but if you haven't watched that episode on the Lost Cemetery, it's on our YouTube page. Go find it and watch that. But
it's interesting.
Basically, there was a cemetery where the Goebbels and a lot of the founders of Louisville were buried, as long as and even some Revolutionary War soldiers were buried there. And somebody decided that they wanted to farm it, and so they got rid of the cemetery. They plowed it all up. We don't know what they did with the stones. I always thought they threw them in the river. But
more importantly, where'd the bodies go?
Well, I'm sure the bodies are still there.
The bodies are still there.
They're 6 feet deep. They're not getting farmed, but they're not. But they've been forgotten, which is sad.
Yeah.
And so I expressed some anger over whoever this farmer was because on that episode we didn't know who owned the ground. I hadn't, but I think I know now.
Oh, okay.
I have an update to that story.
You do?
Yeah. So John Baylor sent me an old plat book photo that he had from way back, and this may or may not have been who did it, but the man that owned the ground that you would think would have been him, his name was Jack Bunn, B-U-N-N. He is suspect number 1. He's actually our only suspect. We can't prove it, and we'll never be able to prove it. And if that's your great-grandfather, I'm sorry, but he is my number 1 suspect in this crime of plowing under this huge cemetery. It wasn't just a family plot. It had over 300 people buried in it, Revolutionary War soldiers, and he just plowed it and threw all of the stones in somewhere. Probably the river that was across the street. So we speculated that cemetery was where the parking lot to the Louisville American Legion is now. Mm-hmm. That may or may not be. There was a couple other people that talked about it, and they think it might be really close to that, but it might be more between where Chris Reinhardt lives and the Legion, which I don't know where he lives, but that's what the email I got said.
You've only taken me back. I just went back there the first time. I'd never been back there.
So somewhere in the area of the Louisville American Legion is where this happened. And Jack Bunn owned a lot of ground, the whole area all over there. So it wouldn't really matter where exactly the cemetery was. He owned all of that.
He owned all of it. So either way, the cemetery's gone.
Yeah. And
we know it was there.
And he's our suspect. Jack Bunn.
Never heard of that name.
Nope.
B-U-N-N.
B-U-N-N. But yeah, I'd like to have, if he's the one that did it, whoever did it, I would like to have a conversation with him. Shake my finger at him.
You bad boy. But yeah, how many years ago was that? Was that in the early 1900s? I don't remember when all that.
I think it was late 1800s.
Yeah, when all that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of crazy, isn't it?
I know. And, you know, you go to the Legion or whatever, and you don't think about that you're walking around on a cemetery.
I was going to say, I won't be able to walk across. Well, I've never been to the Legion in Louisville, but
it's nice.
If I was, I'd be walking across there going.
We had our class reunion there, I think.
Yeah.
So here's something I sometimes think about, and I don't know if you do, but, you know, Indians could be buried anywhere. Like, I even thought about this when I was a kid. Like, and also people like that were moving west, like going west, and they just buried them on
all over this
and
land.
they just buried them by the side of the road.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be right now on top of a body.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you think about it.
They're everywhere.
And you start watching any of those old westerns, and when somebody died, they just dug a hole where they were at. And, oh, yeah, who knows?
And those people might not still be there because they're going to decay really quickly because they don't have embalming or a casket or any of that. So.
And they're not in it. A lot of times they just think of the soldiers that, like your Civil War soldiers that mass graves. I mean, who knows?
It's sad.
It's creepy.
A little creepy. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of weird because you know, like it's crazy because it's like I feel like we take pride in cemeteries. And you know, because like we're so respectful where we walk, how we act in a cemetery.
I don't think it's always been like that.
I don't think so either. Now I think we have respect for that. I don't know. Now we have respect for that, and cemeteries are beautiful. I love a cemetery. Mm-hmm. I love walking through them and reading and looking at everything. And
I find them fascinating because I believe that every person has a story.
I do too.
And then and then you look at that name and you think, what was their story? You know, what was their life like? What did they do?
Yeah.
And that's why I wish there was more information on gravestones rather than just a name and a date.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's expensive, but
I love the fact now. I love the pictures that they put on there. I like all what that person was there. I love all that stuff.
Who their children were, their grandchildren.
Yeah, we my mom and dad are buried over in Clay City. My grandfather donated some of the land for the Clay City Cemetery, and we're all the Franklins are up on top of the hill. And when my dad passed away, Dad died in '97, and when he passed, it's got the parents of Diane, Linda, Stacey, grandparents of Travis, Mac, Connor, and Lexi. We added Lexi because Lexi wasn't born yet, but it's got their names on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like, and it's just going to make it interesting. It's going to make it a lot easier for people like, you know, 70,
future
80
historians.
Future historians to, you know, the future people of, by the way, with, you know, Thelma and Louise later on in life, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
To do stories and keep history alive. History never dies.
No. And it's important to keep it, you know.
Oh, I agree.
Keep it in your mind and keep it fresh and learn more each day. So
it is. It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like you don't know where you're going till you know where you've been.
Right.
And you can't change the past. Quit trying to.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so normally we end a show on my greatest inspirational quotes. Okay? I don't know what we were thinking of last week or whenever we recorded last, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with Saturday Night Live. There is a comedian, and his name is Jack Handy. And on a lot of Saturday Night Live episodes, probably like in the 80s, not, you know, I don't think they do them anymore. He did this thing, and it was called Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy, and it would have this real pretty like background scene, and then the words would scroll up all his thought processes in his melodic voice. Okay?
I know what cued it is that you had a deep thought on an episode, and I was like, Deep Thoughts by Stacey Earlywiner or Jack Handy or something. I don't remember how I worded it, but yeah.
Now, he was a comedian, so now we're going to take a break from our inspirational quotes, and we're just going to kind of do some
comedy.
Deep thoughts. Yeah. So you have to listen carefully. Maybe to understand mankind, we need to look at the word mankind. Basically, it's two separate words, mank and ain't. What do we mean? It's a mystery, and so is mankind.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's just funny.
It was always one of my favorite parts of the show because it was like he always made me giggle.
Yeah.
Mank and I.
So in order to make this, what I'm going to do next week is when I do this, if I can get a sound, I'm going to pull up some violin music.
Oh, okay.
On our next few episodes, and while I'm reading that, I'm going to play the violin music over the back.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
If we can do that. I don't know.
We'll have to have one that's generic and approved, I think. So we don't.
I'll have to ask if we could actually use that, because everybody's fickle about using.
I know,
music.
We have to be really careful about what music we use, if we use any, because otherwise YouTube will block us,
right?
And it won't get posted.
Yeah, so I have to come up with that's a question for Jansen.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
we'll have to ask Jansen. She's the lady that knows all the answers.
She certainly does.
But yeah,
so Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
I kind of like that better than the inspirational quotes. I was kind of getting to a point with the inspirational quotes where I felt like they were like basically we were just saying, keep going.
Keep going.
Don't quit. Don't give up. Be strong. Follow your heart kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they're good, but
they're good.
We needed a break.
It was time to change.
Yeah.
We'll come back to those.
Yeah.
The handy dandy books here just in case we get in a bind.
Right.
But that's it for today, babe.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for joining us. It was fun learning about the history of Louisville again, and we will see you next time.
God bless you and have a great day.